This episode of Infinite Scroll is brought to you by BRITA. From water talk to the emotional support water bottle, Gen Z and millennials have developed an obsession with water and staying hydrated. So, if you're ready to take your hydration game to the next level, BRITA is the way to go. With Brita's water filter jugs, you can enjoy pure and fresh tasting filtered water straight from any tap. By ditching single use plastic bottles, you'll be doing your bit for the planet and drinking water that tastes amazing. Brita doesn't just filter water, it filters out the guilt of plastic waste. Thank you to Brita for supporting the pod, helping to keep our deep dives going, and of course, keeping us hydrated. Hi everyone! Welcome to a special edition of Infinite Scroll. Today, I am bringing you guys an interview with my friend and journalist Cam Wilson and his co-author Ariel Bogle. Cam and Ariel just released a very successful book, literally very successful for having just been released, about the rise of conspiracy theories, the consequences for the people who believe them, and how these beliefs are impacting our culture and communities. Cam is a Walkley Award-nominated reporter whose work covers the intersection between internet culture, online extremism, and politics. He's currently Crikey's associate editor. Right up our alley. Ariel is a reporter with a focus on technology, law, and the internet. An investigations reporter for The Guardian Australia, she has won a Walkley Award for her journalism and worked in media in Australia and the United States for more than 10 years. So we are in good hands for today's interview. This was a very off-the-cuff interview. Annabelle and I did have an extremely detailed outline for this. We had really detailed questions, a structure, an outline, all of that, and I literally didn't follow any of it. So I hope you still enjoy this interview. I think it's fun, it's casual, it's chatty, and we talk about so many topics that we literally cover here on Infinite Scroll, on Mini Scroll all the time. We are so excited to chat with you guys today. You both just came out with a book, Conspiracy Nation. Can you guys start by telling our listeners a little bit about the book and how you guys met and like the process of writing it?
Well, I guess Cam and I are both journalists, obviously, and we've been kind of, I don't know, would you say it's sort of like running in parallel? Like we've briefly crossed over at some workplaces. We both worked at the ABC for a while, the national broadcaster in Australia. And I guess over the course of the pandemic, 2020, 2021, we were both covering a lot of the false information that was flying around about the virus, and then a lot of the discussion about the vaccines. We were kind of really diving into a lot of the online kind of fringe communities and things that began marching through our cities, the anti-lockdown movement, the freedom movement. And I think it was early 2023, we were just catching up for a coffee and started kind of reflecting on that time. We thought there was more to the story because there'd been a lot of attention paid to conspiracy theories, so-called disinformation that had been flying around the internet at that time. But we thought there was more to say, and especially about Australia's whole role in that ecosystem, because I think a lot of people just assume it's all American, like imported into Australia, American exports to the rest of the world, all these crazy ideas. But we thought Australia was playing a stronger role than had really been examined before. So we kind of set out to explore that with this book.
We thought we had our own brand of crazy. We want to let everyone know what it was. Yeah. And I think during as well the pandemic, like everyone would know this. It wasn't just conspiracy theories, but like everyone just got so deep into everything. Everyone had these new hobbies. Mm-hmm. They were getting really I feel like fan culture like really took off during that time as well, because just like so much of the outside of world just like disappeared. Mm-hmm. But like conspiracy theories are kind of like form of that, and people would know as well because of the situation, because of there was so many things happening. People felt so like unsure about the world. We also saw like people who we knew from one thing like often like get into conspiracy theories. So celebrities all of a sudden who you knew like were doing one thing are suddenly talking about how the vaccines make you sterile or put like microchips in your blood. And so it was this real feeling of like how everything kind of like meshed together. And after that we were just like, it's almost like we need to get it out of our own systems. So we wanted to write about it and be like, well, what did we actually learn? Like, and what does that actually like, not just like tell us about why people believe things that are, seem ridiculous to you and I, but also like why people believe anything.
So how would you guys define a conspiracy theory?
So I suppose like the academic-ish definition is basically the idea that there's a secret group out there operating against what is good for the rest of us. We want to acknowledge too, though, there are real conspiracies. As journalists, we cover corruption, we try to unearth genuine conspiracies. So I suppose our definition in the book is that these ideas that are a bit more like absurdly simple. I like these sort of narrative frames that get put over really complex situations. And when people believe that there is this like group operating in secret, often defined by their race or religion, I think that's where we kind of placed our definition of conspiracy theory for this book.
And there are kind of stories. One of the key things about them is that they always like place you at the center of a story where like you're the good guy and you're like fighting against the bad guy. And so like you'll often see this, you know, even when things aren't specifically about a conspiracy theory, but you'll kind of see this almost like shape, this vibe that gets like brought up a lot of the time in everything from like politics to like Stan armies fighting online and like interpreting things. And I'm like, that feels very conspiratorial.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about that in a minute. So are there any specific conspiracy theories in your book that you're particularly interested in? Because each chapter seems to be broken down like that, correct? Like a different conspiracy theory.
Well, I think Cam maybe should talk about Port Arthur for the Australian context, because it's so important for Australian conspiracy internet culture. It's really central. So maybe we should break that down first.
Yeah, so like Port Arthur happened in 1996 and it's Australia's worst ever act of gun violence. A guy called Mun Bryant went and killed 35 people by himself using 2 guns very, very quickly. I was, I think, 6 when it happened. I'm aging myself there. But like, I don't really remember it, but I know, and I think most people actually know Port Arthur stuff really, really well, because it's this weird thing that's like known around the world as like one of the times that people really remember politicians doing something really cool and like great and courageous, which was after Port Arthur happened, Australia passed really like much stricter gun laws than it had before. And that meant, you know, since then, our gun violence has just like absolutely dropped. It's almost like a defining feature of like Australian identity, especially compared to like America and other places, that like we kind of like sorted our shit out.
Yeah.
So that's the event that happened. But like the conspiracy theories around it are this idea that in some way, the guy who shot everyone wasn't responsible. Whether he was helped by someone else, whether the event maybe didn't happen at all, maybe he was brainwashed. All these like different versions of it that really started to like take off, not actually as soon as when it happened, but like a few years later when everyone started to get like internet in their houses, when YouTube came along and then Facebook, all of a sudden like conspiracy theories, which have always been like part of human nature. Like we've always like come up with like these ideas about what famous people or other people are secretly doing. But they really start to take off because for the first time, you know, you didn't just have to like get it like this information from like a pamphlet or like someone in a pub goes like, hey, do you know what really happened here? Suddenly you could just like write as much as you want on the internet and you could share it as much as you want. And that could like spread it in a way that was like really never possible before. It's almost like a really core part of Australian conspiracy culture. Very similar to actually to like the Columbine shootings.
So speaking of the platforms that you just mentioned and how the internet essentially changed how conspiracy theories get spread and how quickly they get spread, can you speak a little bit more to that? Like, do you see there should be more onus on platforms?
Yeah, it's a difficult one in our book because we want to acknowledge there's not overwhelming evidence that the internet is making more of us believe in conspiracy theories, but it certainly helps people that are interested in these ideas find each other and I think really build communities around these ideas, whether it be in a Facebook group, a Telegram channel, like a YouTube comment section. We've seen this whole ecosystem grow of influencers that are either straight dealing in conspiracy theories or dabbling in them around the edges. There are plenty of pretty well-known podcasters and others that like to do that because it's like engaging content. Like it's interesting, exciting, it's an interesting story. So we see a lot of that going on. And I think what we've really observed, you know, there's a spectrum here. You know, some people just dabble because it's interesting and fun. I don't want to say that they're like going straight down the rabbit hole and never come out. But at the other end, when people have started to define their lives around these ideas and live by them, they do often exist in these quite, you know, self-sealing communities where every new bit of information that comes to them about the world, about the COVID-19 pandemic, about political issues, just gets folded into this greater ecosystem and they kind of get trapped in there. And that's what really we've seen in our book, in our reporting, these self-sealing ecosystems that grow often through platforms, whether it be the Telegram channels they're spending all their time in, the Facebook groups. Like, it was really interesting going to some of these anti-lockdown marches and other sort of in-person rallies everyone's there in person, but everyone has their phone out too. You know, they're live streaming. You know, a lot of people do this, not unique to this community, but like a lot of other interest groups, they're very much online.
And it's crazy how like you do see this cycle of like how engagement, like online digital engagement for like just even like ordinary people really does seem to reinforce it. So for example, like imagine like going through this yourself. You believe something like, you know, 9/11 was an inside job or whatever. And then you tell your family and friends and they're like, that's weird and not true. And don't say that. But then like you share it online and then like maybe some people do agree with you and then you kind of get more involved with them and they engage with you. And then you go to like a rally and you live stream it and people are liking it, being like, this is so crazy, this is awesome. You can see how like in a way that wasn't really possible before, it's so easy now to like go down these pathways into these like fringe ideas, feel like there are people who support you and believe what you would, you know, agree with what you're doing. You know, if you wanted to do that in the past, like if you're in like a small town and you're like, I believe in a conspiracy theory, I'm going to hold a march, and then no one would turn up and you'd be like, okay, well, I'm getting a sense for how popular that is.
Yeah.
Now, like no matter where you are, no matter when it is, you can get people to agree with you. And that like just intuitively, it makes sense that would make you be like I'm on the right path.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that we've seen, I think, especially with like places like Twitter, right? Where verification now, anyone can be like verified. Just the concept of having a platform, like even if you have 3 followers, being able to like share your message out there online in a way that like previously before, you know, social media or whatever, it was literally just the information you got was from, in theory, like vetted sources, right? It was from like journalists and newspapers and things like that. So it's so different now. And I feel like it kind of emboldens everyone. They feel like they're way smarter than they are. So I wanted to kind of circle back to the concept of playing with conspiracy theories, because I think we see a lot of that in fandom culture and just like online in general in pop culture, right? We see like blind items. I would kind of categorize that. TikTok conspiracy theories, even the concept of like celebrity PR relationships. People are obsessed with that. Can you speak a little bit more to like playing with conspiracy theories, the difference between that and being like totally involved, and how you see that kind of play within pop culture?
I wish I could remember the name of the writer now, but during the height of QAnon, so people probably remember this conspiracy theory that became like a super motivating factor for Trump fans, was this idea that there was a pedophile cabal out there of elites, Democratic politicians, Hollywood celebrities that would be swept away by Donald Trump and his army in an event called The Storm. Like it was an all-encompassing conspiracy theory that really like motivated people to take action in real life. But there was this great essay, and I wish I could remember the name of the author, where they talked about how it was like a multiplayer game. Like the people that were in this ecosystem, they were like on the internet, they were examining the information, they were looking for clues, they were building the story, they were sharing the information with each other and getting the dopamine hit of feedback, being like, oh my God, I can't believe you found that clue, like, retweet, and the sort of gratification that would bring somebody. So I thought that was really apt, and I've observed that in other communities too, that anyone can become like the spokesperson for a different sort of facet of the conspiracy theory. They can become an influencer. These communities move really quickly. Like you might be at the height one day, you might be the person that's like found the clue, spoken the truth. The next day you can become yourself folded into the conspiracy theory, because how did you know all that? Maybe you've got information that we know. Like, where did you get it? Maybe maybe you're an inside asset. Maybe you're being paid off. You know, it's very fast moving, but I think that massive multiplayer game kind of metaphor is really apt in these situations.
I don't think I've ever said this publicly before, but it was like 2018 and I was working on overnight radio, and I used to and I'd have like just lots of time because I was a producer. So I was just in front of the computer, calls would come in. Otherwise I'm just making sure everything's like just running. And I would like inhale Crazy Days and Nights.
Oh my God, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, okay, great.
We've done a whole deep dive on it, so our audience will be across him.
Great. So, but like, there was actually this really interesting story about how that website during the pandemic as well kind of got like crazier. But even before then, like, you kind of see how there's this real, it's just such a natural fit between like a lot of like celeb fan culture and conspiracy theory stuff, where like there's so much speculation about what's really happening. And this isn't like a passive thing either. Like the celebrities, creators, like top people spend so long thinking about their image. Like you would actually it'd be weird if you didn't think that people were trying to like plan things behind the scenes and make things happen and make you believe things. So it's like perfectly set up for that. And like I always think when you see, like artists, they'll often like tease albums or they'll like do social media posts with little hints in them. That's such a like conspiratorial, like it's like encouraging a conspiratorial mindset where like everything has an alternate meaning. And it's great for them because they get all their fans like speculating and super involved. What does this mean? And like it creates, like Ariel saying, this like excitement of like a investigation, and makes you feel like you're active and you're part of this. That like the teams of these people must love. But you can see how it's like actually not that far to go from something like that to then seeing like similar mysteries in everything. And the book, which we mostly focused on the more serious and like severe consequences of this. And, this kind of fan behavior doesn't really reach that. But it is kind of like a continuum. Like you do sometimes worry. I mean, I've seen like things stans are doing online and interpretations, and you're like, oh, I'm actually like not sure if that person is like 100% healthy. Like a weird, like whether it goes from parasocial like relationships to like full blown, like you're like, this might be like a delusion. It's just this whole like, it almost feels like everything is now like a little bit of a conspiracy, and everyone's like, it's to everyone's benefit to constantly be like investigating, figuring it out, making content about it for their own good. And no one actually wants to say like, sometimes things are like normal, sometimes things don't have like a crazy explanation.
Yeah, I think we're just like marinating in the influence and language of conspiracy at this time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually think one of the biggest corners of the like pop culture conspiracy, or like the growing corners, I guess, is the rise in plastic surgery analysis content. That is something that really took off in the pandemic. All of these accounts on TikTok, on YouTube, just got millions of followers for breaking down what celebrities have allegedly done to their faces and their bodies. And I think a huge part of that for the viewers is that even though like some of the, like, I'm like, this person would literally have no skin left if they did all of that to themselves. Like, you can't believe all of it, but I think it makes viewers feel better about themselves. Is that a huge reason why people go into the kind of conspiracy pipeline?
I have to say, I'm shocked sometimes about what some doctors are saying on TikTok.
Yes.
Like, how can you have a medical license and speculate to that degree? Maybe America is different, because I do feel that a lot of this content comes out of the US.
But we also do, like, you see, like, doctors get into, like, anti-vaccine stuff as well. Like
True.
Just, like, and one of the big things, sorry, I interrupted Ariel, but, like, one of the big things in the book and what we learn from dealing with people who've gone really far down these roads is that being smart, being someone who is accomplished, being someone who is like, would perform well on like an IQ test or whatever, does not mean that you're less likely to believe in these things. In fact, I actually sometimes think that like those can actually make you, in a weird way, like more prone to it, because like fundamentally, I think that like conspiracy theories are kind of, relying on this idea that you're doing your own research, that you found out a truth that no one else knows. That's a kind of like quite a like intellectually arrogant kind of like way to think about the world. Like, I know the truth and other people don't. And conspiracy theories, we know from researchers, is serve a function for us, that they make us feel better because they think they let us explain the world. It's simple, it's not complex. Like, it's not that I don't know something. Actually, I know the truth, and I'm also the good guy as well. All of these things kind of like lead you to kind of then believe these very, very simple narratives.
But yeah, I definitely think those plastic surgery kind of investigation videos and things speak to, well, they speak to a lot of things. I mean, they definitely speak to the scrutiny that women are under for their looks, which is a tale as old as time. But it also reminds me of some pretty sort of horrible internet trends of recent years, where people are investigating people that they accuse of being actually men. Like, so I guess you would call it like trans investigating, which is a really horrible trend that has happened periodically. And there too, like, that's awfully coming in a sort of ecosystem of anti-LGBTQ plus sentiment. It's about exposing, it's about punishing for transgression. Like, I think it's a very complex thing going on.
You're investigating because you are uncovering the truth, and other people always like lying to you.
But your goal is not the truth, it's to punish.
To reveal.
To reveal, I think. In general, like, one thing that we also talk about in the book, and we look at the role of, mainstream media, quote unquote, in these cycles as well, is that conspiratorial tropes and language are not really about truth seeking at the end of the day. Typically, as A really great journalist on this topic, Anna Mellon, has pointed out too, they're about creating enemies, naming the enemy, who is the evildoer and that we can set ourselves apart from as the good guy. So these kinds of investigating videos around, trans people or other groups is about punishing out groups.
And you see that as well. The other thing that I was thinking about is like the real like true crime, like self-investigation stuff that took off particularly as well during the pandemic as well, and how they often end up like, one, they're like, pouring over everything, seeing things where they're not, but often they're like deciding that someone is responsible for it. And it's so irresponsible. And like, it also gets in this funny thing about like, what does it actually mean to believe something? And because like, we all perform belief in a way. Like we say we believe things, and you might be creating content around something because you think it's entertaining and funny, but that might actually change how you like live your life. Like the fact that, you think like you've decided that based on like looking at these IG photos that this person was responsible for this person going missing doesn't mean that you're actually going to go and like track that person down. But then the problem is, and this is what you see in these conspiracy communities, you may be kind of like semi-believing something, performing believing something, but other people don't know that. And often like the acts of violence that you see come from some people taking other people's ideas very seriously and deciding to do something about it.
Yeah. Do you think there is, because the way that you're describing, communities or people that get really involved in these communities reminds me so much of Snark Culture and Snark Reddits. And we talk about that so much, at Centennial World. So do you think around Snark Culture, it's very much tied to like holding someone accountable?
One of the things that I think makes you prone to believe in these things is also a kind of contrarianism. Like, I don't believe the official narrative, I'm against that, and therefore like I'm coming up with all these reasons why you're actually a bad person. I see like a bit of that in Snark Culture as well. Like I'm against this creator, and therefore I'm going to like think of all the ways that proves that why they're actually a bad person. And like fundamentally, like, this comes up in the book, like the way that people come to believe things is not like we sit down and logically figure out the evidence. Okay, I'm going to look at this creator now. Okay, they've done this, this, and this, and I like all these things. Therefore, I've decided they're like a great person, and I'm going to follow them. It's actually the opposite way around. You go, like emotionally, intuitively, I don't like their vibe, and then you find reasons to justify that. And I think you really see that in those Snark communities where people like go into them and they're like, I've already decided that I don't like this person, and I'm going to come up with reasons, or even better, I'm going to have other people give me reasons to justify that why I don't like them.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. One of the most damaging recent like conspiracy theories that we've seen come out of Snark was, I'm not sure if you guys heard of the situation around Adam McIntyre. He's a YouTuber and he's like a commentary creator, so he's obviously very divisive. And he was doing a podcast tour in the US. He's Irish. And so he posted when he got his US like work permit, he posted a picture of it, to Twitter. And then his Snark Reddit took that photo and somebody posted it in the Snark Reddit and said, we need to look into this and make sure that this is actually like a valid visa. And then they started like Googling all this stuff and came to this, I don't even know how they got to this conclusion that he actually was on a religious studies visa, not an O1 visa, which is like, the being able to do entertainment. Yes, exactly. Entertainment, whatever. And so then they're like, well, you can't actually get paid on a religious visa. You can't do a podcast tour. You think that this YouTuber who is famous is going to post something like that on his Twitter account? And I couldn't believe it. And then they called ICE on him. They literally called ICE on him.
Well, podcasting is a kind of a religion, so I understand it.
I don't know if this exactly fits this Adam McIntyre situation, but a lot of the people we speak to in the book, we take quite an empathetic view when people get caught up in some of these ideas, because from our reporting, they are turning to them at a time of great distress or in their lives, like whether it be a health crisis, a family crisis, a financial crisis. That's when a lot of people sort of sometimes turn to these ideas to fulfill a need of like being able to put a simple story, control, exactly. And we take a far more critical eye on the people that are kind of dealing in these ideas, influencing, making money off them. But I think there is like, when you are faced with a really complex system, whether it be like the legal system, the financial system, the courts in Australia, they are so complex and bizarre if you really step back and think about them. So I can kind of see sometimes why people think that they're looking for a secret way through, a quick and easy, simple framework to move through. That's one thing, but with these sort of celebrity situations, I do think that instinct to kind of bring people down to your level to an extent, like there is such a divide of resources, access, like such inequality with these situations. If things aren't going like fantastic in your own life and you're seeing this celebrity like swanning about the world, like the instinct to try and find the clue that unravels them top to toe, like is really appealing.
Yeah, and to prove like, okay, it could have been me, you know, like if I only had that luck, or what do men say? Like, oh, I could have gone pro if I didn't get injured, whatever it is. I'm interested to know if you think there is any benefit to conspiracy theories or just like conspiratorial thinking.
It's a good question. Like, I don't think that we're saying that all conspiracy theories are like completely bonkers, or that sort of dabbling in one sends you off the deep end immediately. Like, I can think of plenty of times that I've like dabbled in these ideas. I've watched the YouTube videos too. Like, they're a fun 30 minutes. And there are plenty of beliefs I have about the world that are definitely untested. Like, I think I have plenty of health and wellness beliefs that are probably scientifically questionable, but I don't think that's worthy of great condemnation or anything like that. But there is a spectrum.
I think as well, like, conspiracies do exist, and like particularly when you're talking about like celeb and fan culture, like it would be naive to think that they are not that like, you know, everything you see is real. And so like, and this kind of comes down to like as well, for so long like mainstream media was the only media, and that was like all the way that it spoke about the world, the way that it showed the world, the people who were allowed to, you know, have access to, you know, these platforms and have their ideas, and even the way that they look and their identity shown to other people. For so long that was like monopolized, right? And then with, you know, social media and the internet just generally, that opened up. And so I know there's like kind of like a funny long bow to pull, but like sometimes conspiracy theorist is used as this term that is like derogatory, and it'd be used to be like, you're a conspiracy theorist because you think like opposite to what other people say. Many times like the mainstream media institutions have been wrong, and it's very reasonable to question them. And you know what you like call a conspiracy theory that comes true? It's just the truth. Like, it's like,
true.
Like people don't look back and remember it that way. It becomes like the thing, you know, because you're just like, well, now it's true now. When we talk about conspiratorial thinking, we mean people who just start seeing everything fits into this one way of the world, which is you're good, other people are evil, there's all these hidden symbols, and it's a battle of yourself versus everyone else. You want people to be able to see the truth because, you know, ultimately, if you are seeing something that doesn't exist, a reality that doesn't exist, you're going to end up like hurting yourself and others. But that doesn't necessarily mean that like you should then like accept everything that you're told. We're not saying like always accept, you know, like what institutions say. You should always be trying to be like skeptical. But the problem is like when you get so skeptical that you just don't trust anything ever. And that's the problem.
Or won't accept evidence to the contrary.
Totally.
Yeah, and I guess too, like, I'm still thinking about it, but I suppose when I feel like the language of conspiracy is everywhere, the erosion of gatekeepers in our media and like the platforms for everybody have led to a really interesting dissection of celebrity culture, or how media is made. Like, the curtain's drawn back, we see the army of publicists, we see the marketing. Like, it's really interesting that we all know so much more about that. But I guess it's when we take it too far, kind of conspiratorial rhetoric comes in.
Absolutely. Is there anything in your researching for the book that like really surprised you?
Ooh, that's a good question. You mean like what conspiracy theory did we find out and we're like, it's real?
Yeah. Or just, I don't know, like what would your main takeaways be that you learned while researching?
Oh, that's such a good one. I think maybe just generally like it made me realize that like kind of how we're all conspiracy theorists in a way, and how we all have beliefs. Like, I don't think everything through. I don't like read scientific papers to know why the breakfast that I think is healthy.
Yeah.
I just trust people, and in a way that's kind of like, it could freak you out because you'd be like, how do I know anything? Like, how do I know everyone's not lying to me? And then you kind of go, well, like most of the time I should probably just like trust people who I think are trustworthy. And then if I find out something to the contrary, then I'll like change my mind. But I'm like constantly like learning. But I think that's like, it's funny, this is such a cerebral concept, but like this idea of just like being comfortable with the fact that you won't know everything. Like, that's a really good thing. And I think, like, giving people as well the benefit of the doubt when you know other people believe in something that you think isn't true, and understanding that, like, that doesn't necessarily, like, come from a place of hate or a place of, like, ignorance, but often comes from a place of, like, people looking for something to make, you know, tough situations better, to live their life. And so, I mean, we really just, like, I don't know, it's a funny thing to be like, I was surprised, but I just came out surprised by, like, how almost every time you talk to someone, no matter who they are, you really come out often feeling quite, you know, like, everyone's like, it's more understandable. Everyone's, like, quite similar in a way. And I mean, it's bizarre when you get a phone call with someone who's like, you know, I believe that the government is trying to kill me, and you're like, we actually have a lot in common. But, like, we do, and I think that's a really important place to start, like, all of these, you know, thinking about this stuff, because otherwise, if you just think of, like, again, if you think about people who are conspiracy theorists as others, you're kind of doing the same thing of what they're doing, which is, like, putting people in an easy category that means they're very different to you. And you're not actually thinking about, you know, the way that you're living your life as well, which I think it's important, right?
Before I let you guys go, I know you talked at the end of your book about how to speak to someone in your life that has conspiratorial thinking. What advice do you have for that?
Well, I certainly don't, unfortunately, have like a 1, 2, 3 step plan to like deprogram somebody by any means, even if that was the goal. But I did speak to some interesting people about this topic, particularly one psychologist who during the pandemic had a range of clients that started sharing like QAnon ideas, anti-vaccine claims with him. And he struggled really with how to deal with this, how to address it, how to like maintain the relationship. And I think he had some really helpful sort of points. And one was like, if this is a valued friend, family member, like, and you feel like you can maintain the relationship, it's good to just establish boundaries, you know, be like, I don't agree. I don't want to get in a debate about it. I'm interested in understanding why you think, what need this is fulfilling for you, like why are you turning to these ideas? But I'm setting the boundary about the debate. I don't want to have that with you. Certainly, like if somebody's starting to espouse like racist ideas, you may want to draw that boundary real quick and make some strong decisions there. And people did too during the pandemic on health grounds. You know, if you felt like you only wanted vaccinated people around your kids and family members were refusing to do so, you did have to like draw those lines. So there's sort of it's about creating the sort of walls around the relationship, what you're willing to discuss with people and what you're not, and maintaining that shared ground if you can, because often like for people that aren't fully gone, you know, they may come back if the material conditions that cause them to turn to these ideas resolve, like if their health issues resolve, if they get a new job, like there's a lot of reasons why people might not necessarily reject or turn away from these ideas entirely, but not really need them and rely on them and talk about them so much anymore. So it's a real personal decision, I think, for each person in your own set of circumstances. And certainly if it's making you unsafe, you know, draw the boundaries pretty strictly. But if not, it's good to maintain some of those threads, I think.
I like when you said, ask them, what is it about this that's like, what is it bringing to you to think like this? That's really interesting. Okay, so tell us where we can get your book, where we can follow you guys, all of that.
Well, all good bookstores, all the online book platforms, support your independent bookshops if you can. I'm at Ariel Bogle on all platforms.
Just search Campbell's and on various social media sites. That's where I am.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Infinite Scroll is a podcast produced, presented, and co-written by me, Lauren Meisner, for Centennial World. This episode was researched and co-written by Annabelle Ben-David. Thank you so much for listening. I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.